All right, Bills fans, welcome into the Buffalo Fanatics Tailgate as we get you ready for Bills Chiefs tonight at 5 o'clock. My name is David Tilton, co-host of the Bills Guys. You can find me on Twitter at TiltMoney. I'm joined today in the tailgate by Clay Troy, our film analyst at the Buffalo Fanatics. And this is Clay. I got to tell you, this feels a little weird. We were talking about it last week with the 7 o'clock game and doing the pregame show, and it was like still light outside. It felt like it was in the middle of the day. This is like truly in the middle of the day. Like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon right now, and we're getting ready for an evening game, 5 o'clock start. What's been your day like so far? I'm just curious to know. Like, there's a lot of people I've seen online saying they're taking the day off work. There's other people saying they're taking half day. What's your day been like? How has this felt for you?
Yeah, I mean, originally when the schedule first came out, I live in Buffalo. I'm a season ticket holder, so I took Friday off. This past Friday, I took that off immediately because it was supposed to be our Thursday night game, and I had to cancel that. And I did take off a couple hours from work today, just to kind of get ready. But yeah, very strange. Yeah, like you said, if we thought it was weird last week, it's even weirder this week. So nothing's normal this season. We just got to adapt and move on, I guess.
Yeah, it's been weird. 2 Sundays in a row without the Bills. I've kind of haven't been as invested in the Sunday games as I usually am because the Bills aren't playing. But let me give a quick shout out to the people who are joining us so far in the room. We've got James FX90, who's in waiting, Father Snowman, Mike Nicholas, Brandon List. We've got Lone Wolf, who's a regular, Riley King's in, Zach Allen, who's a regular, Juan Castillo is in the house, Young King is in the house. Man, we've got a lot of people here. Carter Pizarski, who won one of our giveaways, is in the house. Corey Buffalo's in there. And of course, we've got Brian Bowers in the house as well. And let's start here with this super chat right off the bat from Hold My Beer 585. Thank you for that. Hughes, Addison need to do their job. Finally, what's up with Zimmer and Cox being added? So that is, I kind of had this whole agenda. We're going to get to it, but why don't we start with the notable roster news that came out this afternoon that, we're not going to get the true inactive list for about another 30 minutes or so. But the news came out this afternoon that Harrison Phillips and why am I blanking right now? Who's the
Trent Murphy.
Trent Murphy were going to be healthy scratches tonight, and Brian Cox Jr. and Justin Zimmer would be active for the game tonight. So why don't we start with that? Some thoughts from you. We also heard rumblings that there wouldn't be as much of a rotation tonight. So is this kind of like a to a lesser extent when you put the backup QB in, or you have an interim coach, or you're just trying to give that shot in the arm, or is it more than that?
I mean, it might be kind of it's kind of a wake up call maybe for both of those guys. Trent Murphy and Harrison Phillips are two guys that Harrison Phillips, I think, is a 3rd round draft pick. Trent Murphy, we're paying him a decent amount of money to rush the edge, and neither of those guys really have been playing to the level that we expect them to. So, other than it being a wake up call, I think they just want to see who else is going to step up and make a play. I mean, we saw Cam Lewis was a guy that they brought up, they threw in last week, and he was out there, he was throwing his body around, and he was hitting Derrick Henry pretty hard. So I think it might just be kind of let's get some fresh guys in there. They haven't had as much time. Brian Cox, that's a fun one for some of the older fans who remember his dad, but and Justin Zimmer as well, get some fresh legs in there, see what happens. And then, with a little bit of a shorter rotation now, maybe less rotating in and out, it'll be interesting to see if Epinesa maybe gets a little bit of extra time, Darrell Johnson, it'll be really interesting to see, honestly.
Yeah, I think this can go one of two ways. And I think Scott Vanilou here with the super chat, Scott always hitting us with awesome super chats and good comments. So Scott says they just reported to take Trent Murphy out and Harrison Phillips, how to put some new rookies in and give them a try. I don't know that that's a good idea, he says, especially against the Chiefs, unless it's lack of production. And I think that's kind of what the coaching staff is getting at here. Like Harrison Phillips, I mean, obviously we've talked about it at length. He's coming back from an injury, fine. Trent Murphy hasn't been that great this season, and we're paying him a lot. So for them to sit Murphy down for as much as they're paying him, I mean, Pierre made a comment on Twitter, like probably right before we came on, was like, we're really sitting a healthy scratch for a guy who's making $7.5 million this year. It's very strange, but I think the fact of the matter is like these guys aren't really performing. And, Bobby in the comments says Zimmer's a dog, and Zimmer played well in that first game against the Jets. And a lot of people like what they saw from Brian Cox Jr. in camp. As Kyle Woolston points out here, was looking good in training camp. Zimmer was good in week 1 against the Jets, like I mentioned. So maybe this is something where it's a combination of like, look, these guys aren't performing, and we're actually going to kind of, give these guys a chance that have played well in spurts, whether it's in camp or in actual game action. But this could really go one of two ways, because this could go badly for the Bills as well, right? Because this could be maybe even worse than what we've seen. But at the end of the day, a lot of people were making comments on Twitter, like, are we going to use a lot of one technique this game anyway, with the way the Chiefs are going to come out and probably sling the ball around? So maybe it makes sense to sit Harrison Phillips down for this game. Zimmer can help, hopefully in the middle, clog up Clyde Edwards. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting, development to see how that plays out early in the game, I think, especially. So I guess first thing let's get to as we start going through our preview tonight is let's talk a little bit about the injury report and some of the injuries that we had coming into this game on both sides. So Assembly was put on IR for the Chiefs. He's not going to play. He's been a very key offensive lineman for the Chiefs early in the season, especially getting that running game going for them. And Sammy Watkins is not going to play as well. So that sort of revenge game, I guess, if you want to call it that, against the Bills is not going to happen. And we'll find out shortly here. Mitchell Schwartz, the right tackle, is not going to play. He's questionable coming in. It seemed like he was more on the side of not playing than he would, based on some of the things I was reading. And if he doesn't play, we've got a little bit of a Carolina connection there, with Mike Rimmers might get the start right tackle, which would be a big boost for the Bills. So let's talk about the Chiefs injuries really quick before we go over to the Bills. So what do you make of this injury report? Do you think that them missing Watkins is a big deal? Not? I mean, to me, I think the key thing, if I'm focused in on the Bills, is Mitchell Schwartz going to be active tonight? So how do you assess the Chiefs injury situation right now?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Mitchell Schwartz is going to be the biggest. He could be the biggest impact either way. And because he's questionable and we're not really sure if he's going to be in or not, that'll be interesting to see, because, with Kelechi Osemele out already, he's also a big part of that offensive line. And he's been historically a good lineman as well. So maybe we will see something from these young guys too. So it'll be interesting to see the matchups there. Okay, we got White active. That's good to see. But yeah, I think it'll be pretty interesting. Watkins, he's kind of been a pretty average wide receiver pretty much for his whole career. So I don't think that's too much of a hit. You still have good wide receivers on that roster you got to cover. Obviously, you've got the fastest guy in the league, Tyreek Hill, that you have to figure out how to D him up. And then you got Mecole Hardman. He's also a good young wide receiver. And then, of course, Travis Kelsey is a huge presence. So, hopefully, I don't know if we've seen anything confirmed or not on Matt Milano, but having him in could be huge this week as well.
Yeah, and I mean, even going down further, like Demarcus Robinson's a good player for them. So honestly, like Watkins being out, I don't know that it's going to make that much of a difference from a Chiefs perspective for their passing attack. Now, Watkins has played well, in spurts this season for them. He's had a little bit more volume, than he's had. He's known for those big opening week games, but then like he's kind of been steady for them for most of the year. So we'll see about that. Schwartz, I agree, is the key one for the Chiefs. And if he's out, Rimmers starts at right tackle most likely, then that could be a big advantage for the Bills, at least trying to help us get that pass rush going a little bit. So I'm going to bring up the Bills injury report right now. This is what we know as of the official injury report. Obviously, it looks like ESPN's reporting that White's going to be active, but here's the injury report for the Bills. We've got the key one, or the confirmed one we knew, is Dawson Knox is out. We've obviously got Brown, Milano, and Trey are the questionables, the three key questionables there. It's, like you said, they're reporting that Trey's going to play. And then John Brown and Milano are the other two key ones. Quentin Spain went from a full to a limited to a DNP. through the week. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not active for this game, but we'll find out here shortly. So it really comes down now to Milano and to John Brown, which are two key pieces. Now, I want to start by asking you first, like, we saw what the Bills offense did last week without John Brown, but we also saw how bad the Bills kind of got beat up over the middle of the field without Matt Milano. So is it an easy thing to say that the more important active here would be Milano, or are we overlooking the importance of John Brown? Where do you come out on this?
To me, it's more Milano, just because I think there is a lot. The depth at the outside linebacker position is a lot weaker than the depth at wide receiver. John Brown's a great player. He, Diggs has said before, he's one of the more underrated wide receivers in the league, and I agree with that. He is a very good wide receiver, but I think the depth behind that, with having Davis being able to step up and play that role, he played okay last week. He had a couple catches he could have made, but overall it was kind of his first start, really. So he might have had some first start jitters or things like that. I think he played okay, and I think even if John Brown is inactive, I think he could definitely step up into that role again. But I think Milano really is the big key here. We saw last week that the defense really did not play well. The offense, I don't think, was the problem at all. Josh did throw a couple turnover, or a couple interceptions there. One wasn't his fault, but really, the defense was the issue last week. They weren't put in a lot of good positions. Bad starting field position every time. But I think, especially with Travis Kelsey being that huge target over the middle there, Matt Milano is going to be a big part of this. I think they're probably going to also have Poyer come down and cover him sometimes, and Micah Hyde. Mm-hmm. They like to throw those safeties on him every once in a while as well. Mm-hmm. But Matt Milano, to me, is kind of the biggest puzzle piece here, where if you put him in, the puzzle is complete. But if you take him out, you can't really see the full picture of the defense sometimes. So I think he's definitely the big key here.
Yeah, he's a key. Obviously, that takes a lot of pressure off the likes of Tyrell Dodson or AJ Klein if Milano's back in there. It also honestly takes pressure off of Tremaine Edmonds as well. Tremaine Edmonds doesn't maybe have to feel like he has to do too much. Maybe he's a little more comfortable. So that's a big thing. And so I want to kind of set the scene here for some of the key team statistics, and then I want to play a video that our own Steve Mathis kind of made earlier that will lead us into our first discussion point, which will be the Bills offense against the Chiefs defense. So let's take a look quickly at some of the team ranks here. I've got my notes here. The Bills offense ranks 5th in the NFL total, 2nd in passing offense, 27th in rushing offense, which is obviously something I highlighted here, and 11th in points per game. On the flip side, the Chiefs defense ranks 23rd total, 11th in pass D, 31st in run D. And that's, again, I starred that because the Bills' 27th ranked rushing offense against the Chiefs' 31st ranked rushing defense is kind of weakness against weakness there. So be interesting to see if one of those things kind of stands up. And then the Chiefs, surprisingly, actually are 11th in points per game allowed. So they're not allowing a ton of points. Pullout King here with the super chat. Thank you very much for that. He says, I get he's injured, but do you think Edmonds might be trying to do too much because of lack of trust in the other linebackers that aren't Milano? And that's what I just kind of mentioned. Like, Milano being back could help Edmonds. I also think there's a little bit of a mental hurdle there for Edmonds to clear with this shoulder injury, right? Like, is he fully trusting it yet? It kind of seems like maybe he's not. He's not playing with that sort of I don't know, how would you word it? It's like where you're not thinking too much, right? You're just kind of playing a little bit more, on instinct, not instinct, but like you're not, mentally thinking about like, oh, if I hit a guy this way or if I hit a guy that way, you're kind of playing more instinctually. Do you think that's part of the reason for maybe some of Edmonds' struggles the last couple of weeks here without Milano?
I definitely think it could be. And it kind of seems like this shoulder injury is more of it can't really get that much worse, but it's going to hurt type of a deal. Just because week to week, he's not practicing full go a lot of these weeks, but then he's playing in the game. So it's probably just, take a rest, heal up a little bit, because if you hit somebody, it's going to hurt. So I think that's probably why he's been wearing the red jersey in practice sometimes, but he's still a go for the game. And that might be affecting him a little bit. And I think that's a good point that you made about not playing off of instincts, and you're thinking about it a little bit more when you know that if you go up and hit a guy, it could hurt like hell. So I definitely think that could be playing a factor.
Yeah, and Scott, another super chat. So thank you, Scott. He says Smoke's out again, if not playing in the game today, and I haven't seen a lot of production from Beasley. Josh has been mostly throwing to Diggs. He needs to spread the ball out. If the passing game doesn't work, give it to Moss. So that's it. That's another interesting point here that we kind of didn't even really talk about when we went through the Bills injury report. We should see the return of Zach Moss tonight for the offense. So let's start talking about this a little bit. The Bills offense and the Chiefs defense. And before we do, I want to play a little clip here that Judge Mathis here made when talking about the Bills offense. So here we go.
Everyone is focused on our defense tonight, and rightfully so. But the key to the Buffalo Bills' success tonight will be in letting Josh Allen be Josh Allen. Our defense was banged up and on the ropes last week, and that showed on the Bills' offense. They ran the ball more. They didn't take shots downfield. The offense was trying to control possession and keep our defense off the field. It wasn't the big play Bills that we saw in the first month of the season. They looked almost uncomfortable in executing this game plan, and it showed on the scoreboard. Yes, the inability to run block and the absence of John Brown to take the top off played a role, but it wasn't the sole responsibility for our offensive problems. If we want to beat the Chiefs, we need to go back to being the big play Bills. Let Josh Allen be Josh Allen. Our defense should be adjusting to our offense, not the other way around.
So there you have it from Steve, and I think it's a great kind of discussion point to start talking about, right? Like, to me, and we talked about this, post game as well, is that it did seem to me like the Bills were trying to protect their defense a little bit and kind of maybe reined in the game plan slightly, right, to kind of possess the ball more, or at least attempt to possess the ball more to kind of protect the defense. But to me, in a way, it's kind of backfired on them, because what ended up happening is you didn't score as many points, and then your defense ended up on the field anyway. You weren't really doing what had worked for you the first 4 weeks of the season, and it kind of like led you to kind of these, forcing the Bills into these super long drives where they had to sustain time of possession, had to convert tons of third downs. And then what did it lead to? It led to mistakes. Eventually, obviously, the first pick was pretty early on, but the Bills, I don't think, are designed to go on these 15 play drives, to be honest with you. I think the Bills are in that sweet spot of that 7 to 10 play type drives are what they want. They and that's their strength. So yes, John Brown being out is a factor, but you still have Gabriel Davis, you still have Diggs, you still have Beasley. You can still stretch the field with Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs was the guy making the catches on these deep balls the first several weeks. It wasn't John Brown doing that. It was Stephon Diggs doing that. So where do you come out on this kind of belief or thought on the Bills maybe trying to protect their defense a little bit last game? And do you agree with Steve that they should just let Josh be Josh and kind of go back to the quote big play Bills mindset, even if that means potentially getting into a little bit of a shootout with this Kansas City team?
Yeah, going into the game, I thought this was going to be a shootout regardless. But I think what'll be most interesting is both of these teams are coming off games that they played a defense that were able to stop those big plays. You could see it in Josh's game when he scrambles around, because anytime he scrambles around, he's usually got a guy 15, 20 yards downfield that he'll be able to find and get the ball into. But you kind of noticed a little bit. There were a couple of times when he was rolling out or scrambling, he's looking deep and there's just nothing there, and he's got to throw the check down. And you can tell he is hurting to have to throw that check down. But I think it'll be really interesting to see if both of these defenses that are playing tonight, if they go take a look at the blueprint of what those teams did last week and see if maybe there won't be as many big plays, because both of these teams have kind of just been exposed a little bit on how to get those big plays shut down, because both of the offenses that are playing run on those big plays. And I completely agree. I think maybe they went to the run game a little bit last week and kind of the dink and dunk passes because they felt that they couldn't be as effective on those deep plays like they used to be, and they weren't able to make the adjustments on the fly to correct those plays. So I think that could be something to watch for tonight, to see if those big plays happen again. stopping the big plays is going to be huge for the Bills defense because they gave up a ton of them last week. So are they able to rebound from that and stop those big plays this week? I think it'll be, pretty interesting to see. And the Chiefs defense was giving up some big plays too last week. So it could end up being a shootout. Both teams might get into the 30s in points if that happens. I don't know if the weather's going to be too much of a factor. It's a little bit wet and cold out here today, but overall, I don't know if maybe the offense was catering toward the defense or more just catering toward what they were able to run and just trying to take what the defense was giving them at the time.
Yeah, you mentioned the big plays. We saw what Henry Ruggs did on just 2 plays the last game against the Chiefs. I think he had 2 catches total in the game and for 120 yards against the Chiefs. And then in theory, that could be a John Brown or a Stephon Diggs. Obviously, Ruggs is more of a lesser volume guy at this extent in his career. He's still very early. He's a rookie, but those big plays should be available. So we go back and now let's talk about this Bills run game, right? And we're going to get into the pass game in a second, but I want to talk a little bit about this disparity in defense. So we've got the Bills who come into this game ranked 27th in the league in rushing offense. Zach Moss comes back tonight. The Chiefs are ranked 31st in the league in rush defense as far as in yards per game allowed. So on paper, at least, it would seem like the Bills would have success kind of leaning on that run game, even though it might go against the philosophy of the big play Bills that we've seen first 4 weeks of the season. But with Moss coming back tonight, do we kind of find maybe a middle ground? Do we find a middle ground where maybe we aren't so predictable, where it's pass or run pass, and we see Zach Moss get involved? We see a little bit of a 2-headed monster tonight, or is this going to be still Devin Singletary's show? Are the Bills really going to just say, look, we didn't run the ball well at all last week. Our run blocking hasn't been good. Our line's a better pass blocking team. And are they just going to kind of ignore the fact that the Chiefs really haven't been that good at stopping the run this year?
I think it'll be interesting to see kind of what the snap counts are going to be for both of the running backs, especially since it's Zach Moss' first game back from that toe injury, and that turf toe injury can be really tough for running backs, guys that have to make those cuts. I think Singletary seems hungry to me. After all that Le'Veon Bell talk, he seems like he really wants to come out and show that, we don't need Le'Veon Bell, we got me. And he kind of seemed to take that a little bit personally when all the Bills fans, all the reporters we were all going crazy a little bit trying to see if we were able to get Le'Veon Bell. And I think maybe he was like, well, I'm still here, I can play. And I think Zach Moss has something to prove too. He really, he played in a few games, had a few carries, but he hasn't seen the field much. And I think he'll have something to prove. But really what I want to see is run the ball early and then establish the run there so that you can use play action later and hit those deep shots off play action. Because with the weak run defense, if you can get yards and you can make those linebackers start to crash in a little bit more, the play action is going to be way more effective. And I think that's what they should try to do. And, maybe they mix in the play action a little bit early because that's what the Chiefs will be expecting. I'm not sure. Brian Dable, I'm sure, is cooking up quite the game plan here. I think the Bills tend to kind of play up to the teams that they're going against, but I think it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do with the run game. I don't know. Like I said, with the weather too, I don't think it's going to affect Josh too much, but it'll be fun to see. I'd love to see either of those guys have a breakout game and kind of get going a little bit. I think both of them are just kind of, they don't have any momentum or confidence. So that's why I'm hoping maybe that Le'Veon Bell thing kind of lit a fire under them a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but did you see that one of Rico's followers made that funny that little video of the thing where the guy's holding his girlfriend's hand, but then he's looking at the other girl. They put Rico's face on it looking at Le'Veon Bell, but Devin Singletary was back here hey man, I'm still here. And so obviously that was a fun day kind of following that Le'Veon Bell news. It kind of sucked. It kind of took a little bit of the fun out of it when he kind of narrowed it down to just the Dolphins and the Chiefs, and then we were out of the running. But yeah, maybe this will put a little bit of a chip on Singletary's shoulder too. But honestly, this for me comes down to the offensive line too. Singletary is a guy, and we've seen it throughout his career. He's a guy that can make the first guy miss in a very tight space. So if Singletary kind of, with that vision and with the moves he has, I'm not really too worried about him kind of making people miss tackles. But if the defensive line and linebackers are in the Bills' backfield, 1, 2, 3 yards deep before he even has a chance to get going. We saw that happen a few times against the Titans. I mean, to me, that's where it starts and ends, right? If we want to get this run game going at all, this offensive line has to step up. And I know we've had injuries. I know Feliciano's not there. We'll see if Spain's active tonight. I don't think he will be. We'll find out here shortly. But I wonder if the Bills are just saying, like, look, we're just not a good run blocking team, and maybe that's why. I love what you said. I would love to kind of establish the run a little bit. Steve and I talked about this last week. Like, the Titans were going to try to give Josh Allen kind of the Aaron Rodgers treatment or the Russell Wilson treatment, keep him off the field. Tonight, it's like, I feel like both teams are going to try to do that a little bit for the other quarterback, unless they just don't care. And they're just saying, let the best offense win. We don't care how long you're on the field. We don't care how quickly we score. We're going to score. And like, you're going to have to answer us at every time. You remember that Rams Chiefs game from 2 years ago where like, it was like, they were just going up and down the field on each other. And you just felt like whoever had the ball last was going to win. I don't know if it's going to be that same exact situation, but I could see definitely a scenario where these two offenses are like, hey, whatever, we're just going to air it out. We're going to throw, we're going to do what we do best and do that. So the offensive line to me is a little bit under scrutiny lately. I mean, do you give this line any kind of, pass for like the entirety of their play just because Feliciano's not there, the mixing and matching of moving forward over to left guard? Like, do you feel like some of that lack of preseason, the mixing and matching, Feliciano, is that a little bit of a justification for the poor run blocking, or is this line just better suited to pass blocking?
I think it might be a little bit of a justification, not too much. I don't like making excuses because, they're professional athletes. They should be able to adjust, regardless of whether or not there's a preseason, and we're in week 6 now. So these things should not be a problem anymore. They've seen the field enough. They have been kind of moving around a little bit, which, maybe contributes to it a little more. You're looking at the blocking schemes a little bit different. It's, I know who I would have if I'm a tackle right now, but I'm playing guard right now. Who do I have? So that could be a little bit of a thing, but one of the interesting stats that I saw is the Bills are currently last in the league in yards before contact per attempt. They're averaging 1.2 yards before contact per attempt on rushes. I think they're first or second. I have the stats here. They're first. They are second overall in the league in yards after contact per attempt. So I don't think the running backs are the main issue because they're getting yards after contact, even though the line isn't helping them out too much. And I know that kind of goes a little bit with the zone run scheme that they're doing. Maybe it's not well suited for Singletary. Maybe he's still kind of trying to adjust to it. Maybe he needs to be more patient. It's hard to tell really what's going on there, but that yards before contact per attempt was pretty bad. I think it was at 1 yard last week. I can't believe it got better after we played against the Titans, because I thought for sure that stat was going to go down because it just looked like there was no space for Singletary to go.
I know. And we've got a really special surprise right now because now we're talking about this Le'Veon Bell thing, and we're going to bring in the man himself who is now a famous meme looking at Le'Veon Bell and just forgetting about his guy, Devin Singletary. It's over. Welcome, Rico, to the tailgate, the man himself. How are you doing? You're on mute.
You're on mute, man. Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you.
What is going on, fellas? What's happening?
We were just talking about that Le'Veon Bell meme that one of your follows made of you, where you were looking back at him and you were holding Singletary's hand. So we were just talking about the run game and the offensive line, and it's like, man, like this offensive line is struggling to run block right now. We're 27th in the league in rushing, even though the Chiefs are like second to last in rush D. What was going through your mind with this Le'Veon Bell thing? What do you think about this Bills running game right now? Because that's what we're talking about right now.
I'm not. Listen, man. I was under the impression that because our pass game has been so successful that we just haven't had the need to really showcase the run, and I was hanging off of that, right? So first game, we noticed that like, Allen's lighting it up and they're splitting the time between Singletary and Moss. You're like, okay, cool. Second game, splitting time again. So you're like, okay, that's kind of weird. You want to showcase your main guy, which is Devin Singletary, because we kind of prepped everybody for him last year, the year before. So, and then Moss goes down. You're like, okay, here it is, right? Underwhelming, and underwhelming. I mean, the Rams game, he was actually pretty effective, but he's been underwhelming in the other games. And you're thinking, no, Moss, this should be able to, light a fire under your ass and say you're the main guy. Now I'm hoping it takes a little bit of, we're going to bring Le'Veon Bell onto this team because you guys ain't cutting it. You're hurt and you're just not doing what we need you to do. So Le'Veon Bell, let's go. Now, was this a psychological move? Were they even interested in Moss? And that's what I've been thinking this whole time. Were they even interested in the guy? Or are they just trying to say, this is the way to motivate these guys? Because you could easily be replaced, especially when they say the running back is a dime a dozen. And I hate that saying, but it seems to be that a lot of people feel that way. So Le'Veon Bell not being on this team, hopefully what I feel, it actually lights a fire under Devin's ass, lights a fire under Zach Moss's ass to say, guys, you drafted me in the 3rd round and you were about to bring Le'Veon Bell. Let me show you guys what you guys are missing. Show it to us. That's what I'm hoping that it does. Now, if it doesn't, if bringing those guys onto the team, or potentially bringing them to the team, didn't light a fire under your ass, then we have an issue. But I hope it's the latter.
Yeah, and I mean, he was super professional with what he was saying during the whole thing, right? He was like, "Oh, Le'Veon would be a great addition to this team," but in the back of his mind, he was probably like, "Man, like you're not going to do me like that, right? Like I'm the guy." And it's like, because like he did have a very good season last year as a rookie, and just we haven't gotten it going that much on the ground, but he's shown flashes, right? Brian saying, "Yo, Rico, how you feeling today? Will I be donating that $100? What is this? What is this about?"
I don't feel good. Okay, so last live show, I had Brian Bowers. Put that up for a second. Put that up for a quick second. Brian Bowers, I said I didn't feel good about this game, and I said that we were going to get blown out. I thought we were going to get crushed. And I said it. I said, this is not a hot take that I'm proud of, but I don't feel that we'll be prepared for this game. He says, if we win this game, $100 I'm donating, and I'm putting that as a super chat. Then Sky Blue or Skynet was like, you know what? Let me double that. We win this game, $200. And I was like, all right. So I don't feel good about it, but we'll see.
We'll see. Okay, so it looks like this is good timing for you to come on, Rico, and I think we're going to get another surprise guest here in a second. And I think
who's coming on.
Oh, I'll tell you who's coming on. It's the voice himself, Mr. Joe Miller. And this is great timing because the inactive list just came out. Milano is out. John Brown is in, and Trey White is in. So the inactives for the Bills are going to be Jake Fromm, TJ Yeldon, Matt Milano. Quentin Spain is inactive. Dawson Knox, we already knew, and Trent Murphy and Harrison Phillips, as reported earlier. So what this means is
Trent Murphy is inactive.
Inactive, right. So we were talking
Vanessa. Okay.
Yeah, so we were talking about this earlier when we first came on because there was some news that it looked like Murphy and Phillips would be down for this game, and in their place we've got Justin Zimmer and Brian Cox Jr. getting the nod tonight on that defensive line. So obviously the big news here, 2 pieces of big news. We already kind of assumed Trey was going to be active. Obviously that's great news. We can talk about that for a little. But Milano out, John Brown in. Now, Clay and I were just talking about the more important of the 2 being active. And we kind of were leaning Milano for this game, given the Chiefs' firepower and the Bills' depth at receiver. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on now, Milano being out, Brown being in. Joe, let's let you come right into the party, man. What do you think about these inactive active lists?
Well, first of all, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I don't have any. I'm in the office. So I don't have any fancy equipment today.
That's a fancy office, though. What it looks like.
Looking like he's from the NFL Network. He's got the books.
Right.
What are those mini helmets behind you?
Yeah, they're up. They're actually up there.
Oh, there you go, man. That's some nice recessed lighting too. You got in there. It looks like.
Exactly. It's the old English wood that I like the most. The Milano thing is an issue, right? I mean, the Milano thing is a big issue as far as just the Bills have shown no. I mean, it's a complete. We've seen it every single time Milano's been out. You're just looking at a team that is completely different when Matt Milano's in the game versus when Matt Milano's out of the game. There's been a lot of talk, even on Twitter today, just as far as like how much of an effect Starr is and whether or not Starr has been missing from this defense. And I would dare to say that the Bills miss Milano way more than they miss Starr. So this is going to be it's it's funny. We talk about it. All of us talk about it as content creators. Your greatest asset is availability. And this young guy, as talented as he is, just cannot stay on the football field. And it's bewildering to me that they still, at this point, have not figured out a way to play football solid defense without him. I accidentally took over your chat and I put death blow. So it came out Bill's guys death blow. Just so everybody knows, that was me. That was not Dave or Steve. That was me.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because it seems like, I was watching like the NFL Network preview shows for like 3-4 hours yesterday. So it's just like, man, this is going to suck. No Bills. But it seemed like the reporters now, the national people are really starting to realize how under the radar good Matt Milano is. And you heard that talking about when they were starting to preview this Chiefs-Bills game. I think the Bills roster now is getting a little more attention from the national media types because of their record and because obviously they're playing the Chiefs this week.
Right.
So it's notable in that they're now recognizing the importance of Milano. So Rico, I want to go to you now.
Yeah.
John Brown, Matt Milano. What are your thoughts? Where do you come out on Milano? Because like Joe said, this guy's starting to build up kind of an injury history now over his first couple of years now with the team.
He is, and I always go back to last year when the very same thing happened. When he got hurt, it took time for us to adjust without him, and we eventually did, and we were still able to stay in the top 5 defense, right? Top 5, top 10 defense. So it's just a matter of finding our niche. But what was able to mask Milano's departure was Edmonds stepping up, but Edmonds hasn't been, on everybody's good list. People have been questioning him. Let's put it that way. They've been questioning him. So, and I'm glad that Clay is here because Clay just did a fantastic little film study on our defense against the Titans, and I'm curious as to how you felt about Dotson and how he played in that game, and is that pairing going to build some kind of chemistry with each other going in this game? Because I actually wanted to ask you that question when it comes to our linebacking core.
I like Dotson way more than I like AJ Klein. At least AJ Klein, I think, is probably the most disappointing linebacker on the roster. But I kind of liked what I saw. He has flashes for sure. He can be a little over aggressive sometimes, where sometimes he'll shoot the wrong gap because he just wants to get in there and get in the action. When really he should, maybe kind of be scraping across the defensive line, finding where the running back's going to go, and then fill the hole. But there was even some plays in pass coverage where there was a play where Tannehill was trying, kind of scrambling out a little bit, and he kept zone integrity. He was watching where Tannehill's eyes were going, making sure, there is a guy that came right through his zone, and he picked him up right away. I was pretty impressed with that because I wasn't really sure how he was going to be able to do in pass coverage when they brought him in, but I don't think he's that bad. I think he definitely could be someone that, he seems hungry too, which I like. I think if he gets in the film room, he sees where he's making these mistakes and how he can prevent them. I think he could be a pretty good linebacker.
See, and this is where I just don't feel good. Like, I didn't feel good because I thought, okay, Trey might be out. Milano, we don't know. They're giving us the hype that, he's been practicing and maybe he's going to be in, but everything was pointing that he was going to be like maybe 3 to 4 weeks out. So I was like, okay, this is weird. But anyway, nonetheless, we have some guys that are in, but I still feel this is going to be a tough game for me. So Joe, my man Joe might have insight on this. I don't know how you feel about Milano being out, but I don't feel good because Travis Kelsey is the best, if not the best tight end in this game. And that's going to prove problematic for us if we don't have our best cover linebacker. I don't care what anybody tells me, but I don't feel good about it. I don't know if Joe feels good. Joe, tell me how you feel, man, because I don't feel good about this, man.
I'm not feeling good about it at all. I mean, we've been obviously talking about it a little bit, and Travis Kelsey is by far the best tight end in the NFL. I mean, it was Gronk. It's not Gronk anymore. Yeah. What's interesting to me and what is going to be interesting, I tweeted a little bit ago that sound you hear is hell freezing over, as a guy by the name of Brian Cox is going to be playing football for the Buffalo Bills in a Buffalo Bills uniform today, which is really weird. So for those of us that are old enough, me, that watched that game, he came out of the tunnel. He came out of the tunnels like this. It was like, what? Like, we hated that dude. We hated Brian Cox with a passion.
He was like, he's like the Charles Oakley.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But the thing is like Sal's come out today as well and talked about how he noticed him and he flashed in preseason and he thought he would make the roster. But if Brian Cox Jr. is as good as we're being led to kind of believe today, then why has Brian Cox Jr. not been playing instead of AJ Klein? Because AJ Klein has been hot trash. Like, it just hasn't been good. So I think, I don't know, maybe that's the plan. Maybe the plan is that this Brian Cox kid is going to cover and play that cover spot.
Is Brian Cox is he a hybrid linebacker, or is he more of a stand-up linebacker? I was under the impression he was a in the ground.
He might be. You might be right.
He's listed as a DN on the roster today.
He's more of a 4-3 DN. That's kind of what he is. But I mean, this is going to come down to Dodson, right? And then like Clay and I were talking before you guys came on. It's like Edmonds obviously has the shoulder injury. He's maybe also trying to do too much, knowing that Milano's been out, and he's like pressing a little bit. So if he can start getting some trust in Dodson, if Dodson can start flashing a little bit, I still think it's a horrible mismatch for the Bills tonight, regardless.
Here's a question, Dave. I got a question for you, Tilt.
Okay.
It came out this week, and I don't remember necessarily who it was. It was breaking down the film between, it might have been either Joe Marino or somebody else, between the assignments as it pertains to Edmonds versus Milano. And the conversation was that, like, you know, because people were starting to say maybe we should swap them. Maybe Milano should go to the Mike and Edmonds should play the off-ball side. And as they were breaking it down, they were talking about the fact that these guys are literally, their assignments are basically the same thing. The difference is Edmonds calls the plays. What's the chance tonight that you see Edmonds covering Kelsey and Dodson kind of in that Mike spot, not calling plays, but kind of on that Edmonds side, and then Edmonds is covering Milano or covering Kelsey all night long?
It's an interesting idea, but I will tell you this too, from what I've seen from Edmonds. I mean, I hate to talk bad about this guy because he's looked a step slow this year as well. He's looked a little slower. The play that comes to mind to me is the play from two games ago where he was trying to chase Derek Carr down out to the sideline, and Derek Carr got an angle on him, and that worries me a little bit. Like
Robert Woods as well. The Robert
Woods. I mean, that one I can kind of understand because Woods is a receiver, but Derek Carr, who's not really known as a running quarterback, to get an angle on Edmonds and kind of beat him to the sideline, that worries me a little bit, right? I mean, because shoulder aside, like his legs should be fine, right? I mean, so regardless of whether it's Edmonds or whether it's Dodson, I don't think either is good. I mean, maybe Edmonds is a slightly better matchup for us on Kelsey, but I still don't think it's that great.
So I'm not sure why or what the problem is, but we have a very capable nickel / linebacker in Saran Neal that could definitely body up in terms of like helping out in coverage over the likes of Kelsey. Yep. He's not light enough that he can't support in the run, but he's not heavy enough and not fleet of foot that he can't help out in the pass. So I'm not saying look for Saran Neal to jump in and contribute, but we should at least look his way to kind of body up, because Teron Johnson, that boy was toast last week. My guy Clay tried to give him a lot of love in your film breakdown. I appreciate it.
I tried to be nice.
You did try to be nice.
Bad for the guy, to be honest.
You did a very good job of being nice. But like he just looked out of place. He just looked a step slow. So having someone that's like been slighted and kind of like just relegated just to special teams, hopefully they can kind of get him into the game a little bit and help us out, because we're gonna need all the damn help we can against this fire-powered offense coming from Kansas City. I just hope we just stay competitive. I just want to stay competitive. Don't get blown out.
I want to piggyback off that a little bit if I can. Another thing I think too that'll be big today, especially, we're talking linebackers and we're talking matchups, linebackers against Kelsey, Saran we're talking one-on-one matchups. And I think that's one of the bigger problems that happened against the Titans is we're running way too much man coverage when we don't have these guys that are athletic enough to cover. Teron Johnson, he can't cover one-on-one. We saw that last week that he can't do it. Josh Norman, that's not his strength. He might have been able to do it 5-6 years ago. He could probably do it 5-6 years ago. But now he needs to be his own corner. They need to put these guys in a position to succeed with the play calling, or it's just not going to work. If you match someone up, if you match Tremaine Edmonds up one-on-one with Travis Kelsey, he's going to get burned, because Travis Kelsey's a tremendous athlete and Tremaine is not the beast that we thought he was going to be. So I think play calling is going to be huge today. I would love to see more zone. I know Mahomes can pick apart his zone, but if we play man-to-man coverage, Tyreek Hill is going to eat. Hardman is going to eat, so we need to run zone.
I kind of like what Joe was mentioning earlier about just if the assignment from Milano to Edmonds is identical, almost identical. I mean, this goes with what Pierre was saying, and a few others are just move him to his original position of outside linebacker. Let Dodson, the more natural inside, aggressive inside linebacker, thumper of a linebacker, stay on inside, call the plays, and let Edmonds 6'5", 4'5", 40 body up against Kelsey if need be. Yeah. I don't mind that. I think it's not a bad idea. I mean, at least sprinkle it in here and there. But I think they're so stuck in their ways that we drafted him to be a middle linebacker, and that's what he's going to stay at, right?
I think the win for me in that situation is I'm not talking forever. So I'm not talking about moving Edmonds outside and leaving him there when Matt Milano comes back. For me, it's just more about you put a big, fast body on Kelsey, and if he runs with Kelsey, then Kelsey doesn't appear open, right? And then maybe Mahomes doesn't exploit Kelsey versus Kelsey being wide open all the time, right? So, I mean, it's more of an illusion. The question is, are they going to test Edmonds in that shoulder? But if Edmonds can run with him and it takes Kelsey out of the game, then you've got, clearly White's going to take out Hill. We're starting to whittle it down, right? We're whittling it down. But this is a pick your poison game. They're going to have to pick their poison. Do they want to stop the run? Do they want to stop the pass? Do they want to stop Kelsey? Who do they want to stop? Because much like playing our offense, it's going to be hard to stop all of them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because now we can talk about the guy, Clyde the Glide, and this run defense that we've had the last couple games has been. I mean, we did hold Henry to only like 3 yards a carry.
58, right? 58
yeah,
total?
Yeah, 58 total. But Tannehill got loose, so it's a combination for me. The running backs running, but also the quarterbacks running. We know Mahomes can get loose and run a little bit. I mean, if the Bills contain like they contained last week against Tannehill, Mahomes is going to rush for like 50 yards tonight as well. The Bills' pass rush isn't getting home. They're not setting the edge properly, and it's kind of like hurting them in their rushing statistics because these quarterbacks are now tacking on 40, 50 yards of rushing on top of whatever the running backs are doing. So let's talk a little bit about this defensive line. We know that Zimmer and Cox are up. Phillips and Murphy are out for this game. It was kind of reported a little bit that it seemed like maybe there'd be less of a rotation tonight on the defensive line. Maybe we wouldn't see the 8-9 guys coming in. Maybe you just see that maybe like 4 to 6 rotation, Jefferson playing passing downs and playing inside a little bit on running down. So what do you guys think is
I just saw that.
shopping Murphy?
There is no market. There's no market.
There's no market, not for that salary. No.
He laughs at it. I just
get a bag of footballs for him.
Your best chance to trade Murphy was before the season. Anyway,
absolutely
before you signed him.
Before you signed him. So,
oh boy.
So Clay, maybe we start with you in this as far as the film goes, and I want to hear about now as we kind of move from the outside in on the Bills defense to this line and this front seven and slowing down Clyde Edwards-Helaire, slowing down Mahomes on some of these sort of broken plays in the run game. What did you see on film when it came to the Bills defensive line in the front, and what can we do to kind of like, maybe not the run defense overall against Jacobs and against Henry wasn't that bad, but it seems like it's the quarterbacks that are really hurting us on the run here.
Yeah, it's a lot of contain. Contain's been the name of the game for these quarterbacks getting loose. There was a couple plays last week where Tannehill, they when they do play action, they like to do a lot of naked boot. And if there's a naked boot play, your defensive end should smack the quarterback the moment his head turns around. And Addison he was getting sucked up into the play action. You saw it a couple times. Yeah, and he was just getting sucked right over there. Tannehill would run out the other way, and it was no problem for him. That could be a big problem. Maybe that's why Murphy. I don't know. I don't even know if he over pursues. I think he just gets blocked, and that's why there's no contain on that side because he's getting blocked. He's trying to go inside.
He gets blocked. He's a step too slow.
Yeah,
he's not on the level of the others.
Yeah, I think it's a huge point that you're making, Clay. And you were there Thursday night for the hotline when we did it live at Magruder's. And Mookie had asked a question to Leslie just about the fact that even pertaining to criticism that I had, he didn't ask him about the criticism I had, but it was similar to the criticism I had about like Hughes rushing into the middle, like into the interior of the line, and then and that was allowing Tannehill to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And Mookie was like, "Is it a matter of execution? The guys are not doing their 111th and getting outside and like working their way to the outside to seal that edge." And Leslie kind of hinted that was kind of the problem. So it'll be interesting to see if they fix some of this stuff. Because for me, last year specifically, when it came to the offense, it went on for weeks before they actually were able to finally fix it. So there's clearly some issues. It's been weeks. So is tonight the night they kind of bottle some of this up? We know that the Chiefs can be held in check. The Patriots did it. There's a blueprint out there. The Raiders obviously beat them. So it's going to be interesting.
Interior pressure, I think, is what we lack. Harrison Phillips has not been getting to the quarterback. Ed Oliver has been a bit of a disappointment. I know he's nursing a leg injury. However, man, you got to push through that. We need that interior push, and we haven't been getting interior push, so it allows quarterbacks to just stay put in the middle. If we can get them off the mark and get them outside and feed the dogs and Jerry Hughes, and I say that loosely when I say Jerry Hughes, and feed the dogs and Mario Addison also loosely, because they haven't shown us that they can get to the quarterback. And if they allow Patrick Mahomes to sit there and get no pressure, it's going to be a very long day for the defense. And unfortunately, if that's the case, it's going to be a long day. So I'm hoping that the better defense becomes the better offense. And if we can keep Mahomes off the field and we can generate some long drives and actually convert them into points, we have an opportunity to play offense but defense at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, interior alignment as well. I think the biggest problem is we don't have the guy that requires a double team block. Harrison Phillips and Ed Oliver, they don't need to put two guys on him. So the offense is fine with just putting one guy on him because they know that they're not going to make a play if they just put one guy on, or the amount of times that they're going to make a play is going to be slim enough for them to release that other lineman and go take out a linebacker, or to stay in as an extra guy in pass protection in case there's a blitzing backer or something like that. I think that's the biggest problem. I think that might be why it's a bigger switch up this week. Maybe they're going to see who's the biggest thing that a D tackle needs to do is when you're one-on-one, you need to make them pay for it. If they're going to put one guy on you, you got to make them pay for it, and you got to shed that block. You got to make a tackle. You got to make a play. I think that's going to be something that's going to be really important. Are you guys still on? Did we lose everybody?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the background. Who's producing this show? But I want to talk quickly about something Rico mentioned: the pressure up the middle. But my concern isn't necessarily getting that pressure. I mean, it is a concern, but the contain is the biggest thing to me, because Mahomes, regardless of whether he's in the pocket or not, he can make the throw. So like if you let Mahomes escape the pocket and let him make plays on the run, we know he's deadly at that as well. We've seen Josh Allen, to an extent do that as well. So just getting that interior pressure up the middle to me is not enough, because if Mahomes just rolls out and can make these dynamic plays on the run, forcing our guys to cover longer than they should, it all comes back to the edges for me, man. Because like if those edges aren't set as these quarterbacks try to like escape the pocket and roll out, then it's not going to make one bit of difference. In my opinion.
Question for you, Tilt.
Yep.
So it came out, I think this past week, and it's the antithesis of what you're talking about. They said that what the Patriots did against the Chiefs and what the Raiders did was they rushed 3 and ended up dropping 8 into coverage.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say that's exactly what the Raiders did. They didn't worry about so much trying to blitz or get a pass rush on Mahomes. They let him just kind of stay in the pocket and said, like, look, we're gonna drop 8 guys back. You try to, nickel and dime us down the field, as we're not gonna let you get the big play. We're gonna make you like earn a 10, 15 play drive. And it's well documented. Mahomes is amazing against the blitz. A lot of these top-notch quarterbacks are. Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Russell Wilson. These guys are incredible passers against the blitz, and the statistics prove that out. So I'm with you, Joe. Like if you're the Bills tonight, you maybe don't do more than rush your front 4 and hope for the best,
or 3, which is their speculation that's why Phillips is out, and maybe even Trent Murphy is they're gonna do more, dropping 8 back into coverage. So it'll be interesting to see what plays. Go ahead. Play.
It also then makes me makes me wonder now. Okay, so if we do take the philosophy of dropping the 3, who are the 3? Because if you're gonna have the 3, you need someone that's got a motor. That's not gonna stop. That just hands on them and they're down on the ground. So are we getting our Jerry Hugheses, our Mario Addison? Does he still have that motor? Does Ed Oliver, will he freaking turn that thing on? Is it just gonna be a 3? And the lack of rotation, I'm hoping that he doesn't do as much of a rotation as he used to. Leave your dogs on the field, right? Right? They're conditioned for this. Leave your dogs on the field. Let them get after the quarterback. And if Mahomes is pressured by just 3, my goodness, man, it's gonna be pick city. I hope.
So who are the 3 then? Because if Jerry Hughes is out there as one of the 3, he's going to get pushed around by 2 of their offensive linemen. Like, he's not strong enough to do that. So is it going to be Oliver, Addison, and Hughes? Like, is Jefferson maybe going to be in there a little?
I would assume is going to be some muscle, some nasty. That you definitely need some nasty on there. Oliver, you're going to see a heavy. I hope you'll see a heavy dose of Oliver. And Jerry just keeps going. He just knows it, but his angles sometimes just annoy the hell out of me.
Yeah.
But I can see those guys in there. And Epinesa, maybe we see more Epinesa this game, right?
Yeah.
Clay, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the idea is going to be that hybrid 3-4 situation where, or hybrid 4-3 where you've got, a defensive end or a DT dropping into cover to basically block a lane. Isn't that what's going to happen? It's not going to be putting an extra line or an extra cornerback out there. It's going to be dropping a big body just to get somebody in a lane to mess up that zone coverage.
Yeah, and they've done that before too, where they a couple times Addison would drop back into coverage. Jerry Hughes does it every once in a while too. It's definitely something that they're able to do. And when what the point of doing that is really to kind of hide it from the quarterback. That's when you drop a guy back like that. It's usually very hidden from the quarterback. So
right.
It's kind of you want to fill that lane, and then maybe you can get a tip ball, an interception, something like that. That's but. As far as that guy in the middle, I think we might see a little bit of Vernon Butler in there too. He's a big guy, could probably take up a couple blocks there.
Yep.
I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, I still don't feel good about this game. It sounds really good that we're devising a plan as to how we're going to be able to get to Mahomes. But at the end of the day, if we don't we just can't do what we did against the Titans. And I'm hoping that every team has that one game where you just want to throw it away. We hope that the Titans game was that throw it away game and we come back and bounce back. But I guess the one thing that we should be somewhat paying attention to is the chess match that will be between Andy Reid and McDermott. I'm curious, teacher versus the pupil. I'm curious as to how that battle is going to play out. It'll be very interesting to see how if the pupil has learned a few things along the way. But we'll find out. We will soon find out. That's for damn sure.
Absolutely. Fellas, I got to jump off. I got a soccer game to get to. This was a blast.
Oh, the soccer game's still on.
Oh yeah, I don't know how. It's raining. Yeah, I'm not happy about it. If anybody on here that has my phone number, text me with a score update or like, oh, awesome, or this sucks. Like, stay off your phone, stay away from me, pretend I don't exist until about 7:00 tonight. So,
Joe, it sounds like you need to put your phone in like a lockbox or something, so you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Love you guys. Love you guys. Go Bills.
You're a good daddy, man. Good daddy. Go ahead.
Bye.
All right. Well, thanks, Joe, for hopping on there. So we've talked a lot about what the Bills can do to maybe slow down Mahomes. And we talked about the Bills offense a little bit. We started talking about the running game. So maybe now we start talking about the Bills passing game, because I think that's what everyone wants to hear about, talk about is what is this Bills passing game going to look like tonight? Are we going to come out a little bit more aggressive than we did against the Titans, where we kind of were dinking and dunking? Clay made the point of maybe that's what the Titans were trying to do to us. From a game planning perspective, make us drive the length of the field, but also to an extent, I think Steve had made the point, like, were we trying to protect our defense a little bit and try to have a longer sustained drive? So, Rico, I want to get your thoughts, because what did you feel about that passing game plan last week against the Titans? Did you feel like something was a little off? Like something was a little off?
I will tell you, and I got to make a quick point before I got to take off myself, because I promised my daughter I'd give her the computer by 4. So here's the deal. Vrabel did an excellent job on taking away what Allen likes to do best, and that is to utilize that big arm and find his targets downfield. So when you limit Allen from doing what he likes to do or doing what he's been accustomed to doing the last 3 or 4 games, you won't see the frustration in him, but I'm sure he was, because he wants to hit that pass downfield, and it just wasn't happening. So he was relegated to dinking and dunking per se. So if Andy Reid and the defensive coaches at Kansas City are going to take on what the Titans did, then it's going to be a long day. But I feel like that was an anomaly. I think that we will get our chances. That defense that Kansas City has is not like the defense that the Titans have. So I think that we will take our shots when the shots are there. Allen is Allen, man. He's a gunslinger. So he's still going to take his shots, but Vrabel did a very good job. So I'm not worried about that passing game. I mean, dude, we threw for 260 yards, right? On a game that we felt like, damn, that was a terrible game. But Allen threw for 260, had 60% completion percentage, and was just all right. It's just that we had too many drops. The drops were just, I mean, Diggs alone had 3 to 4 drops, right? Dawson Knox, that bum, had a drop. I don't know what.
Hey, he's out. He's out tonight. So
I know he's out. I know he's out. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna make this last point before I get out of here. If Dawson Knox continues to underwhelm, I'll use that word. If he continues to underwhelm the way he has been when it comes to needing him offensively for this team, once they make a decision on Tommy Sweeney is going to come in and not relinquish that spot. It's going to be Sweeney, Dawson Knox as the complementary tight end, or Croft. And you know what? In the next year or two, if Dawson is not on this damn team, man, do not be surprised, because right now he is underwhelming and it's not doing well for us. It's killing us.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. I mean, we'll let you go, Rico. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Gentlemen,
thanks
I don't know if we're going to win this. I can tell you right now, we're not winning this game. I don't mean to be negative, but please, if we win this game, I will be as hype as possible. I'm telling you right now, but I just don't feel good. But hopefully
what's your prediction before you leave?
My prediction before we leave, score prediction. I hate doing it, but I think it's going to be not a close one. I think they just catch fire and they put 40 points on us, and we are at like 25 because we just garbage points. So 40-25, 40-26. Chiefs. Ouch. I don't want to say that, but I'm going to. I apologize. Clay, wipe the tears from your eyes. I'm sorry.
All right.
So, gentlemen, all right, Rico. I'll see you guys post game Rico report. We'll see you after the game, man. Hopefully it's a good one.
All right. Thanks, Rico. All right. So Clay. Oh, we got a super chat. So let me bring this up. When we win, Rico got 300 coming his way in post game. Well, yeah, that's big money that I don't have to throw around. So whatever Rico's doing there, what is this super secret? I don't know what that is.
Don't worry about it.
Oh my! I think
someone who's supposed to be at work who can't divulge their identity.
You're like that the Tom Haverford on the Entertainment 720 where he was like pretending to be Mark Zuckerberg. For people who get that reference, it's from Parks and Rec. But anyway, so I want to just kind of quickly touch on something Rico just said, and then I want to get into a little bit of over-unders before we do our predictions, Clay. So the thing with Dawson Knox is frustrating, right? Because he's got the physical attributes. He's shown flashes. He's shown in spurts that he really could be a great tight end for this team, but he's been so inconsistent. He's had now some injuries. He's got the drops. It's kind of frustrating, right? Because you feel like this guy's got so much potential. I want to ask you like quick fire question, because I didn't prep you on this. Should the Bills be looking for a tight end at the trade deadline, or just generally, are the Bills someone who should be buyers at the trade deadline? And where do you think they should look for? Should they look for a tight end? Should they look for some help on defense? Like tight end seems like something that maybe could be an option for us. And before you go, make sure to take yourself off mute.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. Yeah, I think now this season is the time to buy at the trade deadline. This, they've made it pretty clear based on the moves that they've made so far that it's a win now type of a feel. So I think definitely it's time to go shopping at the trade deadline. Evan Ingram, take a look at him. Zach Ertz. I think they should look at anyone who's who's shown that they're a productive tight end, and it has to be at the right price though. And we know that's what he does. He's not going to take anybody unless it's for the right price. So I think I think that's I'm not sure exactly who they should go for necessarily. I don't know if I have anyone particularly in mind other than, Ingram and Ertz, and I don't even know if they'd be able to get either of those guys. I think Ingram probably a little more likely than Ertz just because the Giants are pretty shipped in for the year so far. But yeah, it's time to buy. I definitely think adding someone at the tight end position that can be productive to the point where it's basically an extra wide receiver is huge. And obviously, Dawson Knox is a good blocker, and Croft can block a little bit as well. So maybe they're holding on to those guys because they can do that. And I know early in the season, Brian Dable liked to move Dawson Knox all over the place. He put him in at fullback a lot. He's gotten a decent amount of snaps at fullback when he gets motioned in behind the line of scrimmage there. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, but the drops are a problem. You kind of gave him a pass when he was a rookie. It's like, in college, he didn't catch the ball much. He didn't get a lot of targets. But it's becoming a habit now. And that's just, you can't drop the ball in the NFL. You got to make the catch when the ball's in your hands.
Yeah. And I think the thing here is that, like, I'd like to say it would be sweet to see the Bills go after like a premier tight end at the trade deadline, but like, to obviously a much lesser extent, they're going to get Tommy Sweeney back at some point. So maybe that's some reinforcements there. I think if they're going to go after a position, I don't know personnel, like a specific player, maybe they should go after, but position wise, I would think they should go after like a linebacker or a corner. I don't know like who's on the market from that perspective. I mean, we had a chance to sign Prince Amukamara. We didn't. So I don't know how aggressive the Bills would be. If this defensive trend continues, then maybe they would be a little more aggressive, but maybe they'll see if like Levi Wallace comes back, Milano comes back. Maybe they don't. So I do like the idea of going after someone at the deadline. I just don't know what the right answer is because in theory we have guys coming back, so it'll be interesting. So before we kind of get towards the end of the show and kind of talk about predictions and things like that, I want to go through a few over-unders with you, Clay. So I'm going to start with the Bills over-unders for tonight's game, and I want to hear your reasoning for some of this. So just to kind of lay the land here, the Bills are 5.5-point underdogs. The over-under on the game has now moved to 55.5. It dropped from 57.5. I imagine that's because of the conditions. But they've got the Bills right now. Total points for the Bills, they've got at 26.5. So I'm going to start with that. 26.5 points for the Bills, over or under, and why?
I'm going to say over probably. I think the run game will be more effective than what we've seen so far. I think Josh Allen had a fine game. I don't think there was really, other than that one interception that he threw where he just didn't see Butler kind of hiding behind, he was hiding behind a couple guys, he snuck out, and it was a good play on his part. And Josh mentioned that he was getting greedy on that play. And we could kind of see toward the end, maybe he was trying to be a little bit of hero ball Josh, sugar rush Josh, as Brant likes to call him. But, I don't think the offense is the problem. I think scoring points should be fairly easy this week, just because I don't think the Chiefs have a great defense. I think they're going to be able to exploit it a little bit. Maybe get a nice deep ball pass. I think my initial prediction was Bill's probably going to score around 28 points. So I'd say over, but maybe not by much.
Yeah, I think most people in the comments section are agreeing with you. A lot of overs. Talking about in the comments section, a few unders, but it's a good number. It's kind of like 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 4 touchdowns. I feel like that is doable, especially based on what we saw the first 4 weeks of the season. I mean, it's hard to kind of like avoid the recency bias of what you just saw against the Titans and realize that this team had put up over 30 points. So we've got people saying over, but the Bills still lose, over and the Bills win. But a lot of people thinking the over there. Okay, so let's move into a little bit of some player over unders here. So let's start with let's do a Chiefs. Let's do a little Chiefs over under and see how you're feeling about this defense specifically against Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So he's been one of the more dynamic backs, obviously early in the season. Rookie's been racking up a lot of scrimmage yards per game between running and receiving. The over-under for Clyde, total rushing and receiving on the night, is 105.5. Do you like that over or under for Clyde?
Total yards, I'll probably say over. That's a tough one. That's a pretty good line. Whoever's coming up with those lines, that's a good one, because it's hard to tell. they've been pretty good. They've been pretty good against the run. They just stopped Derrick Henry, who just went off, and they were able to stop Josh Jacobs, who I thought was going to have a great game as well. Both of those guys are a little more power based, not so much quickness based. Edwards-Helaire, he's a smaller guy. He can wiggle through a little bit. So I think it'll be interesting to see if he's able to do that. I think maybe in the pass game, he might get a little more action, just because hopefully the Bills are protecting the deep ball, and it'll force Mahomes to check down to him a little bit more. So, I think it'd probably be a good thing if he ends up getting that, because that means we're stopping the big plays from the wide receivers that we should be worrying about.
Yeah, comment section, we've got a couple unders, a couple people saying tough call. Richard Rush says under, Bills D shows up and out. Bill Basner says tough call on Clyde. I mean, it's a good number, right? He's been right around that mark for the season. The Bills, for all their flaws on defense, at least the last two games have held Josh Jacobs and Henry in check, at least on the ground. They've held them in check. And honestly, like, running backs haven't been doing the damage against the Bills in the passing game. It's really been the tight ends and receivers. So do I cautiously optimistically say under on the Clyde yardage total? I might have just jinxed it, but I'll say under. I think the Bills maybe hold them to around 80, 90 total yards of total combined yards from scrimmage. This is a big one. Travis Kelsey, big storyline coming into this game with Milano being out. The Bills might have some struggles here covering Kelsey over the middle. They've got Kelsey with a healthy over-under of 6.5 catches and 77.5 yards. So, why don't we talk about both of those? 6.5 for Kelsey, 77.5 yards. I personally think he's going over on the catches. The yards, I don't know, because the Bills may try to protect, like you said, over the top. They may be just kind of allowing the underneath stuff. But, I mean, for me, I think it's a clear over on the receptions, and the yards, I don't know. I would say maybe over on the receptions and under on the yards.
For me, I'm going over on both. I think it all kind of depends too. I'm being a little optimistic that we're able to stop the over the top stuff. But I think if they look at the blueprints that are there, that the Patriots did and the Raiders did, I think it's going to be over for both for Kelsey, because they're probably are one of our biggest weaknesses is when the tight end just does a little scat route, 5 yards out, 5 yards turn in. That's been a huge problem for us, especially off play action. If you run a play action pass, that the linebackers come way up and the tight ends have been open. So I think it's probably going to be over for both. Travis Kelsey should be an asset. They should be feeding him all game. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I want him targeted 10 times at least.
Yeah, American B said, I'm scared Trent Murphy garbage waste of money. Well, Trent Murphy's not going to be on the field tonight, so he really is a waste of money because he's not even playing. So there you go. People in the comments section are scared of Kelsey, rightfully so. No Milano. Kelsey over 100 yards, says Lone Wolf. Richard Rush says push. Other people say, over. Travis scares me. Over on both. I see him grabbing about 10 over the middle, like you said. So Scott Blakely, contributor for us on the blog, says Kelsey will get double-digit catches and 100 yards and 2 TDs. Seems like the comment section has no faith in stopping Travis Kelsey tonight, which honestly, like,
I don't know
it's
if
a
we
tough,
should.
it's a tough order regardless. So I kind of understand where they're coming from, but man, that's tough. So for the last over under on the Chiefs, let's go to the guy, the MVP, Super Bowl champ, the richest man in the history of football, Patrick Mahomes. They've got Mahomes total passing yards set at 306.5 and total touchdown passes at 2.5. I'm going to tell you right now, I like him going over both of those. I think he's going for 350 easy through the air, and I think he's going to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns this game, man. If I have Patrick Mahomes on my fantasy team this week, knowing that the Bills have struggled on defense, I'm really happy. If I'm like needing like some points tonight to win my matchup, I'm happy if I have Patrick Mahomes. So I like him going over both easily.
I agree with you there. Over on both. We couldn't stop Tannehill. Now, I'm not saying Tannehill's not good quarterback. Tannehill's doing very well this year. I think he's working his way into the MVP conversation right now, especially with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers did bad. Josh Allen's had a bad game now. Mahomes has had a bad game now. I think he's working his way into that MVP conversation.
Let me ask you this: Is he number 2 right now behind Russell Wilson in the MVP talk?
Who, Tannehill?
Yeah.
No, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
I've said it earlier this year. Aaron Rodgers was the front runner before that game against Tampa Bay, and I think he's still right behind Wilson. Tell me who he's throwing to. Can you name 2 of his wide receivers off the top of your head?
Who, Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I mean you probably can actually.
Valdez Scantling and Quamius St. Brown. I don't know.
Yeah, St. Brown. Yeah. So I mean, if those are the guys that you're throwing to, and that Tanyan guy at tight end, but he's definitely. Oh no, Pierre's at the comments. I'm talking about MVP race.
Pierre. He's talking about because we just kind of just glossed over the fact that Mahomes was going to easily go over 300 yards and 2.5 TDs. He says y'all are tripping. Bills defense is going to go back on primetime and show the world the defense is back. Hot take: Mahomes will have his worst game of the season in front of the world. That is a hot take because
burning
up. The Chiefs are coming off a loss too, and they're going to be a little upset and have a little something to prove. I can't wait to see the conversation that takes place between Pierre and Rico in the Twitter chat, because you could see Rico was not confident as he left, right? And Pierre on the other side, that's what I love about Pierre though. He's always so confident, and he's just got such a positive attitude about everything. It's like, it's kind of infectious. So, I love that about him. We need optimists. We need positive vibes. So, and he's saying a little treat. We might go live during the game. I won't be, but I think Pierre and Steve might. So we'll see what happens there. So that'll be fun. Truth to Heart says Tannehill's not discussion for MVP with Derrick Henry. I don't know, man. Tannehill's numbers look pretty damn good so far this season.
Derrick Henry's probably at the bottom of that list too, though. I think he's probably in top 10 contention for it, but the Bills just shut him down for the most part. He didn't have a great game against us.
Chris doesn't appreciate us being Debbie Downers. Look, I'm not saying the Bills can't win while allowing all these yards, but it's probably gonna be one of those games where we got to score 35, 40 points to win. I'm just
right. I think when originally, right after the Titans game, my initial thought was this is going to be the first meaningful shootout in Buffalo since we played the Patriots in 2011. I think it's going to be.
That was fun.
It's going to be a real showdown. I think both guys, both quarterbacks are going to want to be on their A game coming off a loss. So I think it'll be fun to watch. When you watch these two guys, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, they play super similar football. They can move around in the pocket. They can make the crazy throws. They don't have to have their feet set to make the good throw. Their shoulders don't have to be square to make a good throw. I think it's going to be this is probably going to be one of the more entertaining games to watch this year for sure. And just because we're guessing the over on these doesn't mean that I think they don't have a chance to win the game. I think they have a great chance to win the game. It's just about how many mistakes are we going to make today? We made a bunch last week. Can we leave them all in last week? Can we leave all those ugly turnovers and penalties in last week? If they can, I think they have a very good chance of winning this game.
Yeah, and the mistakes, obviously the turnovers killed us because they set up the Titans with short fields, and then the defensive mistakes on top of that, plus the penalties. It was all over the place. I mean, even the special teams, we had a fumble. So, mistakes everywhere. All right, so let's get into a few quick Bills over-unders before we get to our predictions. And we'll start with Devin Singletary, a guy that, everyone was all on the Le'Veon Bell train. I mean, I don't think – I'll say this. There were very few people that were actively saying, no to Le'Veon Bell. I think everyone was most people – I mean, I know I'm generalizing a little bit, but from what I saw on Twitter, a lot of people wanted to bring Le'Veon in. And, Devin Singletary's still there. So his line tonight, total rushing receiving, we said Clyde was at 105. Devin's total rushing and receiving tonight is at 75.5, which I think is a pretty high number for him, just based on kind of what's happened the last couple games. Total rushing and receiving 75.5. Clay, what do you think for Devin? Over or under that?
I'm going to say over for him. I think the motivation, all that Le'Veon Bell talk, I think he's pissed off a little bit, and he should be, because the way he's been playing, I was a big fan of bringing in Le'Veon Bell. And if you can sign a guy, like I said, we're in win now mode. If we can bring on a guy that, maybe he hasn't been the kind of guy that we saw in Pittsburgh. He hasn't been that guy in a couple of years, but if he's a guy that can bring an extra element to the offense, that he's, we're bringing him in on a 1-year contract, I would have been fine with it. So I think that should be, a fire under Singletary's ass. I want to see him get after it early today. I think he's going to be pissed off, and he's going to, hopefully he's taking some ankles today. I think he's going to get the over. All
right. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you with this one. So they've got Stephon Diggs on here with total receptions 5.5, total receiving yards 86.5. I think the 5.5, that should be an easy over for him on receptions. But here's an interesting one for you. Devin Singletary, longest reception of the evening, 27.5 yards over or under. So this kind of gets back to what we were talking about the beginning of the show is, are they going to kind of open it up again, go back to some of those deep balls that, we always talk about John Brown stretching the field, but it's been Stephon Diggs who's been the one catching most of the deep balls. And obviously John Brown plays a factor in that and kind of like moving coverage off, giving Stephon Diggs one-on-one. But 27.5, longest reception for Stephon Diggs tonight, over or under?
I'm going to say over. I think he didn't. The big plays weren't there last week, and that's because the Titans shut him down. So the Bills have that film too. They're going to go in and look and be like, okay, they took this away. How are we going to get the deep ball back? I think he's going to get a big one, even if it's a contested catch. I think at some point Josh is going to give him a chance to go up and make a catch, because Diggs can do that. I think up until this point in the season, he's been top 5 every week in contested catches. So he's a guy that can do that. If he's in one-on-one coverage, give him a chance. And I think he'll get a big one today.
Yeah, and just to answer this question, yeah, it includes like whatever the yardage is total for the reception. So it doesn't mean where he caught it. It's just total. So you take a look at Stephon Diggs, right? And just to kind of talk about this for a quick second, he's at 509 receiving yards going into this game, which is still good enough for 5th in the NFL. He's only about 47 yards behind Robbie Anderson, who's actually, that's crazy to think Robbie Anderson's leading the NFL in receiving yards. But Robbie Anderson's at 566 and Stephon Diggs is at 509 heading into tonight. So we could be talking about, and obviously DeAndre Hopkins is yet to play tonight as well, who's just ahead of Diggs. But we could talking about one of those two guys, DeAndre Hopkins or Stephon Diggs, leading the NFL in receiving yards by the time this night is over, heading into next week. So 27.5, I'd love to see the Bills kind of like open it up a little bit more, kind of like take a few more shots. So you know what, I'll optimistically say that he will go over that for his longest reception. All right, so let's talk about Josh Allen now to round out the over-unders here. Here's another fun one, and this one is one that I see on the book every week. And we'll get to the passing yards and touchdowns, but I want to start with this one's kind of like similar to the Diggs one. Josh Allen, will he throw an interception? Yes or no tonight?
I don't think he's going to. I say that optimistically because you never know. It's interceptions are such all you need is one play to go wrong. And but I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna be a lot safer with the ball. And unless we get a Tyler Kroft situation, I don't think he's gonna.
Okay. Yeah, I think he will, but I think he'll add like 3 or 4 touchdowns to that mix. I think he'll pass for 3, maybe run for 1, and he might throw 1 pick. But like you said, it's so hard to be perfect on every throw, and it just takes one weird bounce. So I'll say yes, but I think he'll offset that with a good stat line tonight. So speaking of his stat line, they've got his passing yards set at 292.5. And isn't that crazy to think about, right? Like coming into this season, he hadn't thrown a 300-yard game. And like, this is where we're setting these over-unders for Josh Allen passing yards right around 300. It's pretty incredible. 292.5. And they've got his over-under on touchdown passes only at 1.5. So how do you... Now I will say they've got juice on the 1.5. So the 1.5's a minus 150. And the over and the under is plus 155. So they're kind of saying that the over is more likely there,
right?
Which I think it will be. I think he's going to at least throw 2 tonight. So what do you think? And I want to hear your take on the yards as well.
What was the yards number again?
292.5.
292.5. I said the over for Singletary. I'll probably say the under for Josh then, just because, you got to have balance. Could he go over? Easily. He could go over, especially against this defense. I might change my mind and go with the over. I don't know. I mean, I think he could do it for sure. I think it just depends on how much time they have the ball. Easily, I think he could go over that. He's done it almost every game. Has he been over that number every game except for last week? I think.
Last week was his first game under 300. I believe.
So.
It was like what? He was like 262 or something last week.
It wasn't a bad game. It wasn't even a bad game, and they barely had the ball, and they kept turning it over. His drives were getting cut short. So I think he can do it. I think he can do it. We'll say the over for that. It's going to be a shootout,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the over. I like the over on both. I really do. I think that, at the end of the day, he's going to throw for over 300, 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like I said, maybe the one pick, but the Bills are going to have to pass the ball a lot in this game. We can't expect that we're going to hold the Chiefs to. If we hold the Chiefs honestly to even anywhere in the 24 to 28 point range, I think that's a win for the Bills. To be honest with you, and that kind of leads into now where we're going to wrap up the show, the last couple minutes here, and want the comments section to blow up here now too with your predictions, and we'll start putting those predictions up on the screen. So, Clay, we'll start with you as our secret producer is going to start putting up these predictions on the screen. Let's start with your prediction, and tell us why and who you think is going to win.
I'm going to go 34 to 28. The Bills are going to win. It's going to be a shootout. Bills get the ball last. Josh Allen's going to take them on a game-winning drive like he does. 15 points, man. 15. But you think the Chiefs are only going to get 15 points against our defense? No way. That's very optimistic. But I think 5
field goals for Harrison Butker.
Seriously, might do as well as Young Wei Koo did against me in fantasy this week.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a shootout. Whoever gets the ball last is probably going to win the game, I think. So yeah, I'm excited, honestly. This is going to be a big money game for the NFL. Yeah, if you can keep the Chiefs under 30 points, that's a huge win. Keep them under 30 points. Yeah, 31 to 28, Chiefs heartbreaker. I could see that too. I think it's going to be right around the 30s range, and it could go either way. Flip a coin on who's going to win.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's money. There looks like there was money coming in on the under because the game was 57.5 as of yesterday, and now it's down to 55.5. I wonder if weather has some kind of factor in that. I'm sure it does. We've got a lot of people saying, in that 30 point range for the Bills and the Chiefs. We've got James. James doesn't hold back.
No.
I don't think that's a homer take, by the way, the 42-35. I think that's realistic in the sense that it's going to be high scoring on both sides.
Absolutely.
The one thing you don't want to happen is for the Chiefs to get up big and the Bills just can't get into it, right? Because then you're
right.
Really in trouble.
I don't think that's going to be a big issue though, because it's the Bills are built different this year. Where if the Chiefs get a big lead, the Bills can come right back and score on a big play. And I think Tre'Davious White's back at least. That's going to help them a lot. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to be able to get more. I think they're going to be able to get more. A few more stops. Hopefully, someone said no punt game. As much as I would love to see that, I would like it even more if I saw the Chiefs punt it a couple times.
Yeah, no kidding. Bajorquez could be a weapon in this game if we need to make the Chiefs go the length of the field.
Yeah, he's been playing well. I don't know what happened with him this offseason, but
he just needs to hold the ball better. Laces out.
Oh my, yeah. But he brought out the boomstick. McAfee put him up on his feed. So yeah, he kicked like a 71-yarder.
Nick Gallo here with a good comment. I did have this in my notes. Got to win the turnover battle. Just Absolutely. Really quick. The Bills are -2 on the season on the turnover margin. They've had 6 takeaways to 8 giveaways. The Chiefs are +5. They've only given the ball away 3 times, have 8 takeaways. So that's a 7 differential between the Bills and the Chiefs there, between their differentials, which that's got to change. You can't turn the ball over against the Chiefs. You can't give them short fields. The Raiders were good about not turning the ball over, and they took the ball over from the Chiefs, who have not given the ball away much this year. My prediction for tonight, the this is like, I mean, people are going to hate me for this, but I think the Chiefs are going to win. I just honestly do think the Chiefs are going to win. I do think it's going to be a high scoring game. I do think the Bills will be much more competitive in this game than they were against the Titans, but I do think that the Chiefs might just have a little bit more experience, a little bit more, mental toughness, maybe coming back from a loss than maybe the Bills do. We'll see how the Bills react in this game, coming back from a tough loss against the Titans. Can they respond favorably? We saw them do it when they got blown out by the Chargers, with Tyrod, and they went to Peterman, and then, they came back and they ended up beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead, if you remember, in 2017. So, hey, we'll see. I do think that the Chiefs do win tonight, though, and I'm going to say it's Chiefs 35, Bills 31, I'll say is my prediction.
That's realistic. Like I said, it really could go either way. I could see the Chiefs winning because, like you said, they have experience in those tight games. Josh Allen's Captain Clutch, but can he maintain that when he's in a shootout with, Patrick Mahomes? He's got an MVP and a Super Bowl MVP under his belt. Can you go toe to toe with that guy? How big are those cojones, and can you really throw it over those mountains?
Man, Richard, I would love that 38-34 Bills. Man, it would be so sweet, though, if it was kind of like a shootout and the Bills came out on top. I'd almost find that to be more satisfying than if it was a blowout, honestly. Sometimes those shootout wins are more satisfying to win. That Rams game was so satisfying to win.
Oh yeah.
No, we blew that big lead. I was
sweating.
So we're gonna wrap with that. It's 4:30 now on the East to give everyone. Clay, what product are you using?
It's Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's something sculpting clay, something like that.
That's really nice. I
don't have the We keep it high and tight.
I don't have the hair for that. Oh, Josh Allen's got a new cut for tonight. If you saw the picture,
fresh. Yeah,
you kind of he kind of has that cut that you got a little bit, and maybe he's got a little more off the sides. But
right, yeah. I usually get a little buzz of fade on the sides. I'm growing it out for Halloween, but. Well, maybe afterward we'll show up with a fresh cut one day.
All right. Well, we're gonna let everyone kind of settle in, get to their happy hour. Since this is a weird situation, we're still in the middle of the afternoon. I should be working right now, but I'm not. So that's where we are. It's only 4:30, and high and tight for life. So everyone enjoy the game. Hopefully you tune into Rico's post game, the Rico report after the game, and it's a victory. And we don't see Rated R Rico, although sometimes it is entertaining to see Rated R Rico. But we'll leave it at that. Clay, thanks for hanging with me the entire time this afternoon.
Yeah, it was fun.
Did a great job. Everyone, thank you for the comments and the super chats. As we head out, we always go Bills.
Go Bills.